Okay, so for my self therapy thing, I usually like to do creative stuff using the medicine wheel. So I work on the physical, the mental, the spiritual, and emotional. And I do different activities to work on that balance. Everyone does it differently. This is just the way I was taught, and there's no right or wrong. Sometimes I know people that have to look at specifically working on their physical parts, or maybe sometimes emotional, depending on what they're going through in their life. Like if they got an injury, they might want to work on the physical to stretch that out, to work it out. So they might not look at the emotional parts because they're so busy working on that. But whatever feels comfortable for you, I would suggest doing that. For me, I usually take 30 minutes doing an activity that works on each part. So I will be going through that today. So I usually get like a notepad or something like that. I like to do creative work. So let's say I'm doing like a poem and I come up with different like ideas. So what would I want to talk about? Like anxiety or depression, for example. This works on the emotional and the creative. So I would want to work on what am I writing about? How can I work on these topics that might be what I'm dealing with? So I might be going for a poem, I'd be like, breathe in, breathe out. Unlike Jordan Peele, I can't get out. So I just continue with this. I'll show what this poem might look at the end, but it gets that idea. So I like to use references in my poems. So Jordan Peele made a movie called Get Out. It's a horror film, so it's just like it brings in that anxiety, the breathe in, breathe out, right? And sometimes when you're feeling anxiety, you feel like you can't get out of the circumstance, and I'll go through this poem at the end. Oh, and like I said in this poem, I kept it short. Usually I would go longer with this, but this is kind of an example. Don't worry with what is said in the poem. It's just is an example of these topics, and sometimes it's from my life, sometimes it's from people I know that have experienced these things. So keep that in mind. But I find that if you don't say this out loud, it will keep inside you and it'll just bring toxicity. You'll be stuck. So with writing this stuff out, it actually helps heal, in my opinion. So I'll do the whole poem and kind of just go in what it means with the topic. So breathe in, breathe out. Unlike Jordan Peele, I can't get out. Sometimes it feels like I stand out. Why can't I go back to being invisible? Felt like I was invincible because I was so separated from being vulnerable. As I felt like as I feel the waves again, I'm taken back to being a slave to desires that I could never grasp, a slave to the firewater. It's like no matter what I do, I end up in relapse. Wondering how much pills it'll take to collapse. Might as well do society's job by destroying this savage ass. Sorry for the language, it's just, it helps. Again, sometimes you need to add like swears just to get it out, depending if you're facing anger or whatever you're going through. So, kind of what this poem means to me is just like, sometimes it's hard to explain, but when you're in such a dark place of anxiety and depression, sometimes you kind of miss the days. Like for me, like I'm getting more courageous with being outside and showing who I am and really being vulnerable. So sometimes it's like, sometimes you get those thoughts in your heads. It's like, oh, sometimes I wish I was back to being an introvert when no one paid attention to me, right? So sometimes it's like, I want to go back to being invisible, because that way I could control who I let in, who I let out. It was like I was invincible because again, it's about controlling how people see me and how people get to know me, because being vulnerable is really hard for me personally to do and be honest with people, because I've been bullied a lot, I've been abandoned, I've been treated pretty bad in my life, and I've always had the idea of you have a choice in life to either be a victor or a victim. So I would probably bring this back into a positive spin. Or I could leave it like this. Either way, it gets the message across that this is what people are going through, right? So I feel like this is a good example of how to use the medicine wheel to just work on that emotional piece. So not only, as I showed, how to use that via poetry, you can also do it artistic kind of style. So if you like drawing, if you like painting, you could do that too for creative activities. Whatever goes into your mind on how to work on your emotional, whatever you feel comfortable doing. And you can combine things, so maybe stretching and exercising also works on your emotional piece, not just your physical. So whatever it is, like, because it could be working on that, going out in nature, for example. I will also be doing a kind of a picture, and then I'll be going through that as well. I just drew this kind of quickly. It's kind of like a representation of me. The circle is like the dark despair. Me in like a cradle position, you see like the bruises and the scars, but then I wrote, some of the worst scars are the ones you don't see. Some of the things that I struggle with are more internal. So it's hard for me to kind of talk about the ones, like, I know people that get like hurt, but they talk about at least people can notice the bruises and the scars, but a lot of people don't see the scars in the heart. So I might put like a heart right here, for example, put like an arrow through it, just to show that like the heart can be broken. So usually, like, if I was doing this, I want to kind of use this with kids too. Like, sometimes people aren't really good at saying what they're going through. Sometimes they have to depict, and then I might say, what does this picture mean to you? And that's where they might write some of this down, or might go through it of what they're going through in their lives. And this is also a good tool for me to just see where I'm at, and then work on it. So what can I do to help that? Another thing I like to do to work on my medicine wheel is listening to music. So sometimes it depends on the mood I'm in. If I'm feeling kind of down, I might listen to more positive kind of music. Maybe I'll listen to chill music like jazz, or maybe some funk, just to give me some kind of that groove. I also love hip hop. Sometimes hip hop can be good for me. Sometimes it brings my mood down depending on what music I'm listening to. So like metal, I usually listen to when I need to get pumped up, or because metal is kind of more rage, kind of like you get your anger out, and it's like, you know. So whatever emotions you're feeling, you can use music as a way to release some of those pent-up feelings and stuff. So that could also be an idea that you can use. So as you see here, I drew kind of like the medicine wheel a little bit, and maybe this will help kind of better visualize and kind of get you start thinking about the things that you can do in your self-therapy, self-care journey. So like I said, for physical, it's kind of like the exercise, the stretching, dance or gardening, if you like doing that kind of stuff. Your mental could be things like strategy games, philosophical videos. Like, I love watching philosophy videos. It gets my mind to start thinking, and like whether I agree or disagree, it gets me thinking kind of in that mindset. Reading a book, I love reading books. It helps, especially if it's a really good book. You can get kind of lost in that world a little bit. It can be really good. Um, the spiritual is just reading. It could be like reading a religious text, so example, the Quran, Bible, Buddhist texts, whatever you believe in. Or if you don't believe in anything, that's okay too. Just find something that speaks to you, I would say. Yoga, if you like doing yoga, meditating or breathing exercising is really good as well. Reflection journals, I love that we're doing that in social work, because that is something that really works for me to dig deep in. So, and working on my triggers and knowing my pitfalls and all that stuff. So that's something that you could use. And then the emotional creative activities, like I was showcased with the poems and the music ideas. Dance can also be part of emotional if you're more artistic with your dance, like with self-expression. You can also do baking or cooking if you like that. Like, let's say you want to bake for friends or family. Even in this time, it's just like something you just want to do. Seeing friends, I said, in a safe, COVID-friendly manner. But yeah, just connection is really important. You can also use this wheel when you're in like a rehab, or from an indigenous perspective, you can work on your addictions using this wheel. So this can be a good thing to kind of showcase for not just everyday kind of people, but people that are in struggling situations. The medicine wheel is like a constant flow. Everything is represented by the circle. The circle is very important. We are all one. It's okay that we're not perfect. It's accepting who we are, faults and all, and just constantly working on that every day, whether it's 10 minutes or an hour, whatever you feel comfortable with doing. And then it just helps with the healing and just being one with yourself. So yeah, this is kind of what I do to work on myself and the self-care. I know lots of people that use this, and it changes depending on who you ask and what they do, but there is no right or wrong answers, like I said. So yeah, thank you.